Hi there, this is Jacob Nash, Precalculus Lessons. This is Unit 0, Lesson 2 on Factoring Review. So, next thing that you already have learned but should be reviewed is factoring. Maybe that was something that was hard for you in Algebra 2, so at least this is a review, but also it might be a little bit harder. I mean, not necessarily harder, but we might expand beyond what you might have learned, but mostly it's the same. And I know that when I did the algebra videos, I had all these different ways, like bottoms up factoring and product sum and things like that. Right now, I can't really go into the specifics, but you can just see how the process works. And if you need more information, see Jacob Nash Algebra Lessons. That's also a channel on YouTube. Also, engineering lessons, also geometry. So, anyways, here's what steps you have. First, you need to put it into standard form. That means that the highest exponent goes first. So if you have an x to the third and x to the second, x to the third goes first. Then divide out a common factor if possible. So if you see a 2x and a 4, you can divide out a 2. Then group terms. Group them to where you can divide something out. That's what you might need to do. These aren't necessarily in order. It's just things that you can do. You might not be able to do all of them. If there's only 4 terms, or sorry, that's actually supposed to mean if there's only 3. If there's only 3 terms, then split the b. So there's a, b, and c. So it will sometimes be something like this. The exponents don't have to be that, but whatever this b is, split it to where the two this will make sense when I solve it out, but the 2 terms that you split b into add to equal what the original b was, and then when they multiply, they equal a times c. If a is 1, then it basically just equals what c is. Then simplify completely, then divide by the original a at the end. If a was 1, meaning that it was just, there was no coefficient there, then you don't have to do anything. If there was only 2 terms to start out with, you might have a difference of squares. So remember, that's if there's 2 terms and they both, you can take the square root of it and there's a minus in between them. So you can take the square root, is what it's supposed to say, of the terms and simplify. If there's a plus and not a minus, then it's not a difference of squares, and it's prime. That means it can't be simplified. So that's pretty much the goal. You're trying to make it prime so that you don't have to do anything else. So let's look at some examples. So here we have 7x squared minus 73x equals 30. We need to put this in standard form, but it already is, because the highest exponent is 2. So you have an exponent of 2, an exponent of 1, since there's nothing there, and since there's no x, really an exponent of 0 for the x, meaning there is no x. Because remember, something to the 0 equals 1, so if there is an x to the 0, it equals 1. 1 times 30 is 30. So that's what it is. Then you need, there's different ways that you can do this, but a good thing that I like to do is to multiply this by this. So we have 7 times a 30. Now, that is 210, but just to verify, let me look at my calculator. Although you pretty much shouldn't use a calculator in Precalculus, but just to be sure. So that's 210. Obviously, if you somehow forgot how to multiply, 0 times 7, 0. 3 times 7, 21. But you might have not even had to do things like that in a long time, but you might have to now. So then you have x squared minus 73x, not 7x, sorry. 73x plus 210. Also, a rule is that your leading term would want to be positive. So if this was negative, then you would divide out a negative. that's something you should do. So no negatives for A. Now we need to think. I said split this apart, and what we do is we split it apart to where the two terms add to equal this, and they multiply to equal this. I said A times C is 210. That's the 7 times 30. So what we can do, you might not know off the top of your head, but you know, it's easy. It might be easy to see 7 times 30. There's also 3 times 70. So what you can pretty much do in this situation, so you see, you just find all the factors of 210. So start out with 1 and 210. Those things multiply to equal 210, we know that, but do they add to equal negative 73? No. Then 210 divided by 2, that's 105. So 2 105, does that work? No. Then 210 divided by 3, 70. Does that work? Yes, because 70 plus 3 is 73. Since we need it to be negative, but we need this to be positive, we'll make them both negative. Because negative 3 minus 70 would be negative 73, and negative 3 times negative 70 is positive 210. So those are our factors. So that's how you do it. You just find the right factor. It might take a long time, but then when you find it, figure out what signs it needs to be. Then we can do x minus 3, x minus 70. But we're not done yet, because remember we multiplied that 7 to make it go away. Now it needs to come back. We can't just get rid of it. So we do that by dividing by 7 at the end. That's a crucial step. And the most common thing that you mess up on is signs. So also a crucial step is making sure you have the right signs. Now what we do is, since this 7 can't simplify evenly, we just put it by the x, 7x minus 3, and then 70 minus, or divide by 7 is negative 10. Or negative 70 divided by 7 anyways. So these are your factors, and that is, they can't be simplified further. That's how you do it. So if that didn't make sense to you that much, maybe see Jacob Nash algebra lessons to see how to factor. Number 2, okay, what can we do? Well, there's two terms. Can you divide out anything? Well, the first thing to see is the variable. There's not an x on both terms, so we can't do anything about that. And then the 4 and the 9, nothing can be divided out of both evenly, so we can't do that. We know that 4x squared and 9 are perfect squares, so can we take the square root? No. And why is because of that plus. I said that. So this is what's called prime, meaning you can't do anything more. So that's prime, but let's just go do a side note to see what we would do if it was a minus. So if it was this, then you take the square root of this, this, and this. And that would be 2x minus 3. We're not including the minus there. But we need another factor, and in the other factor, we just make that a plus. That's what we do. And that would be the answer for that, not this. Okay, now we're looking at this one. This one, we need to put it in standard form. Well, it is in standard form, because the 3 is first, then 2, then 1, then 0. Okay, now we can group these, or we can divide out something. Let's see. We can divide out something evenly out of all of them. Can we divide an x? No, because there's not an x on the 112. But we can divide out a 4. And it doesn't need to be negative, because this has a positive coefficient. So then that would leave us with, put the 4 here, 9x cubed minus, we have our 84 divided by 4, which gives us 21x squared, plus 12x minus 112 divided by 4. May have to do that not using a calculator. And that's what we get. But we want to group now because we have our four terms and we can group. So we still have this 4 off to the side, and then let's group the 9x cubed minus 21x squared with the 12x minus 28. Now we see if something can divide out of this part. Can a number? Yes, that would be 3. And can a x? Yes, x squared is the highest one that we can do because there's x squared on all. Really, if you think about it, there's 3 x's here, 2 x's here, so we can do 2 because there's 2 and 2 on both. That's how we know. Let's erase it. So when we do that, when we divide by those, we would get 3x minus 7. Okay? For this part, can we divide out a number? Yes. That'd be 4. Then, can we divide out an x? No, because there's not an x on the 28 part. That would give us 3x minus 7. And how we knew we grouped correctly is because those, well, in this case, those two things are together. I mean, they're the same thing. That's what I meant to say. So then we have 4. That our first factor is 4. Then we put these two parts together, 3x squared plus 4, and then the last part is 3x minus 7. And that cannot further be simplified, so that is your answer. So remember, need more help, go to Jacob Nash Algebra Lessons, or just, there's lots of other things out there too. Hopefully that was a good review of factoring for you, and then we'll see solving equations review next. Thank you for watching.